Kei ngā mātā waka o te motu pakuku mai ki te hui e whakapāho atu nei I te whenua taurikura o Ngāti Whātua, atu I te whare tūpuna o Tumutumu whenua. Broadcasting from the heart of Tāmaki Makaurau, welcome to this special Auckland Super City mayoral debate hosted by Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei. Tonight, 4 Auckland mayoral candidates go head-to-head to win the hearts and minds of Tāmaki voters. So let's meet them now. They are former engineer turned media freelancer and motorsports commentator Craig Lord, tēnā koe.
Tēnā koe.
Current Auckland City Councillor and Labour Green Party endorsed candidate Whaanana Efeso Collins, talofalava. Heart of the City CEO and CNR endorsed candidate Viv Beck, kia ora.
Tēnā koe.
And last but not least, former Mayor of the Far North, Wayne Brown, tēnā koe.
Tēnā koe.
Yeah. Now before we begin, let's take a look at the city our candidates are vying to lead. Tāmaki Makaurau, Tāmaki Heringa Waka. Home to more than 1.6 million, the Auckland Super City was created 12 years ago by an Act of Parliament and is the largest local government body in Oceania. But 181 years ago, it was Ngāti Whātua Rangatira Āpihai Te Kāwau who envisaged Tāmaki Makaurau becoming our capital, gifting 3,500 acres to establish the City of Auckland. The Mayor will oversee an annual spend of $2.8 billion on capital investment and $5.11 billion in operating costs. The Super City is home to some of the poorest and most affluent communities in Aotearoa, as well as numerous offshore islands, including Aotea, Great Barrier and Waiheke. Tāmaki Makaurau is also home to the largest Polynesian population on Earth. Today, the Super City Council recognises 19 mana whenua groups. So let's start our debate with a question from one of the mana whenua groups, he uri no tēnei marae tonu, kia tahuri ake tātou.
Kia ora, ko Graham Tipene taku ingoa, he uri hau no Ngāti Hine, Ngāti Kahu, Ngāti Manu, Ngāti Haua me Ngāti Whātua. My question for the mayoral candidates is, how will you ensure Ngāti Whātua maintains its ahika within the Tāmaki area?
So that question to you, Efeso, how will you help Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei maintain their ahika here?
Yeah, I think they play a very pivotal part here. You know, when you think back to the history of Māori, where they arrived in the land, when they made it their own, when they fought to maintain their lands, this is where the fires have been burning. I think what's really important for public institutions especially is that Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei know that they are going to be the group that is consulted first and foremost. I think the challenge around council is we deal with 19 iwi, and it's recognising which iwi are the ones we should be going to. So that's how we do it. We have a direct relationship with them. I've already proposed that we have a Māori advisor, but again I know the challenge to that would be, is that person from Ngāti Whātua? So we've got to have a strong relationship. I believe I do, and I think it's important that their voice is heard when we're planning the kind of city we want.
Ka pai. Vic, you recently posted a very iwi Kiwi style tweet where you said you don't support co-governance, you also don't support the Tupuna Maunga Authority or voting members on the Independent Māori Statutory Board. So maybe tell Ngāti Whātua what's wrong with working with them or other iwi in a co-governance arrangement?
Well, I think the context for those comments have been that I've spent the last few months moving from the top of the region to the bottom of the region, talking to different people, and what's concerning me is that there is a lot of division coming from some of these comments and some of these changes. And I think it's very important coming through a very difficult period that we've been, that we actually start to bring people together. And what's worrying me about some of these changes like the co-governance is that we are actually getting, people are actually quite angry, and I think it's important.
Bringing people together though, isn't that the purpose of co-governance? You're bringing Māori to the table with those.
Well, I think what's worrying
decisions.
people, I think there was a lot of good work done to build relationships, and I think what's happening now is people are concerned that some of these decisions are undemocratic, and that is what's worrying me.
So you won't be working in co-governance with iwi like Ngāti Whātua?
I think, well, I'm certainly, where there have been treaty grievances that have been resolved and have co-management, I absolutely agree that that's been important. What I think the issue is for many people across Tāmaki Makaurau is when the decisions are undemocratic.
Okay. Wayne Brown, when asked whether the new mayor should appoint a senior Māori advisor, your response was you didn't need one, you'd had years of experience in Te Tai Tokiro, Te Tai Rāwhiti and Tāmaki Makaurau. How will you engage with mana whenua?
Well, I recognise Ngāti Whātua as mana whenua here, and I think in terms of looking after the ahika, they're the right people to do it. And they've demonstrated already very good skill sets in that. I mean, Narima Blair and his team are commercial and sensible and worth talking and working with.
Yeah, but how will you do that? How will you engage with all iwi in different parts of Tāmaki Makaurau?
Well, we were talking about Ngāti Whātua here, and I'm engaged with them regularly because in fact I go to the footy with them.
This is a debate for all of Auckland, so but I'm asking you in terms of co-governance.
But we are here, and in terms of there's a current legal squabble over the position of the other iwi claiming mana whenua, and I'll just wait until that gets sorted out before I enter into that debate. But right at the moment, I have very good relationships with 2 or 3 senior people in Ngāti Whātua, and I'll continue working with them. Particularly, they've got a good commercial nous, which fits nicely with my kaupapa.
Ka pai. Craig, this is your second run at Mayor. No doubt you've done plenty of research and done those panels that you've been talking about. What do you think needs to happen in terms of the relationship with mana whenua, and what do you think the position of mana whenua is?
Well, Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei are the mana whenua of Tāmaki Makaurau, Auckland. So it's important that we...
Alone, on their own?
Yeah, at this stage until someone advises me different. And that's going to be my point.
Have you read any of the treaty settlements?
There's no way I'm scrolling through all of it, no. Absolutely not. I just have not.
So in that regard then, how would you be working with other iwi that are recognised as mana whenua within Tāmaki Makaurau? Are you saying you won't?
No, not at all. I'm saying I'm into advising and consultation. I'm happy to communicate with people and be schooled on things. Absolutely, I want to learn. Look, for an example, I only just found out this year my iwi. Only this year, and I'm 50. And I've got a lot to learn now. And I want to keep learning. And that's part of the mayoral role. You keep learning. And if that includes consulting with iwi and mana whenua, then I will do that. But the co-governance side of it is different for me, in my opinion of it.
What's the difference? If you want to consult and engage with iwi, but you don't want to do it in a co-governance, what are you proposing?
Co-governance to me is a position where you are not voted in by the people to govern. You are put in there as a position, but you're put in there as a position based on DNA, and I don't like that. Just as me, I just don't like that. You should be, if it's governance, voted in, but when you want to make decisions around things and consult and take advice, that's a completely different path for me.
What do you think? Because in terms of iwi, they vote their own people in. Is that not democratic?
Yeah, I think it's very democratic. Look at the what we have with the IMSB. We've got co-governance arrangements that work at the moment. That's what shared governance is. And if you look at what Chris van Leysen wrote for E Tangata, it's very clear that this is the way forward for us. This isn't about competing models. I think it's really dangerous and irresponsible when we have iwi, Kiwi type ads that are going up. What we've got to do is work out how we share the governance, how we acknowledge indigeneity across the world. When you're trying to get an Indigenous studies paper going, you come to Aotearoa because that's when you're going to learn about Indigenous peoples.
Just a question to you. Would you prefer Māori wards if you don't like co-governance?
Well, I think that needs to be tested. I do think we need to review the Super City and the forms of representation, and I think that is certainly something that can be reviewed. I do acknowledge the role of Ngāti Whātua as mana whenua. I think what people are troubled by is that it feels like we've made an enormous leap now to having boards developed, for example, on the waters that are going to be 50-50, and it's causing a huge amount of concern out there, and that's what I'm worried about, because I think we are building towards a divided society, and I don't want to see that.
Ka pai, we'll come back for more. Kia mautonu mai rā, ka hui anō tātou a koe nei. Welcome back to The Hui, where 4 of the contenders for the Auckland mayoralty are telling us why they're the best person to lead the city. Time for another question from the community. Kia tahura ki tātou.
Kia ora tātou, my name's Brooke Fiafia Stanley Powell. I'm the coordinator with Auckland Action Against Poverty, and we're an organisation that believes in a poverty-free Aotearoa and world. My question to the mayoral candidates is, how is the council going to support livable incomes, universal services and land back to change the system so that we can prioritise people and planet?
And that question to you, Viv.
Well, there's a lot in that question, and some of that does relate to central government. But what the council I would like to lead is going to ensure that people, the things that I'd like to see for people is affordable housing, the ability to get around easily and affordably, a safe city, and a council that actually is very connected to our different communities and understands their needs and ensures that they are cost effective to work with. And that's the vision I have. And there are times, obviously, when council and a mayor need to stand up to central government to ensure that we're getting our fair share of resources, and there's certainly a lot that we need to be standing up for right now in terms of things like emergency housing and mental health support and a range of different things. But I think fundamentally what I'd like to see is a place that is safe, affordable to live and get around. Another thing that we do need to focus on, of course, is the climate. Have I got time to keep going?
Oh, we're going to do that in part 3,
right,
so thank you for that. You touched on a really interesting point there, and that's about equity and fair share in the communities. And we're going to talk about playgrounds now, so I'm going to come to you, Craig. In central Auckland, there are 5 pieces of equipment on average in each playground, but children in South Auckland on average have just 3 pieces, and they're mostly, well, they're likely to be damaged. So what will you do to bring equity to the kids' playground?
Yeah, this was brought up to me in 2019 actually, and I fully agree that it was wrong and it needs to change.
What will you do?
We make the change within the council table, and we say we've got to make everything fair for everyone right across Auckland. Doesn't matter where you come from, and that's what we have to do. Okay. That's the job.
Wayne, what do you put it down to? What do you think's going on? The council's spending more money in the affluent suburbs and less in the poorer suburbs. How do you plan to address this significant inequity?
Well, when they rolled out the vaccination project, they tried to do it centrally managed, and as soon as they devolved it down to the local iwi health providers and the GPs, it worked much better. So the lesson from there is to get the decision making down much closer to the action. And so I don't think that deciding how many swings in a playground is something that should be worked out at the central council. We just got to fund it down to we've got local boards, and the local boards have got a responsibility. The money is shared out fairly with great equity, and the local boards have got a responsibility to ensure that they get down to the grassroots. If you make the decisions nearer to the people who are going to receive the service, you get a much better result.
Ka pai. Okay, Efeso, you've been a councillor for the last few years. So North Auckland, where just 20% of tamariki live, is projected to receive 33% of total funding for playgrounds. So as a councillor, did you vote for that, and why?
No, the inequity begins because we became a united council with different levels of assets within communities, and so the money is distributed depending on where your assets are. So if you had more playgrounds on the shore, you're going to get more of that money. I think what we've got to do is redo the formula, and I've been advocating for relooking the formula so it takes more of the equity into account. But can I just come back to what Brooke asked about livable incomes and doing things? Fair, free public transport is going to save a lot of money for our families.
I'm going to ask you about that in part 3.
Yep, $27 a week.
Viv, I'm going to come back to you. Problem gambling advocates say the sinking lid policy is too slow and it doesn't address the core root of the problem. So would you get rid of the sinking lid policy for something more aggressive?
Well, I do think we have to be concerned about some of these
issues.
What
would you do,
though? Well, I haven't specifically worked on a policy on that.
Does it sound good though? Make it more aggressive?
Well, I do think we have to be concerned about the harm that's being caused, yes.
Okay, Craig, your background's in Scouts. You know keeping young people busy is important. So what about pokey money going into creating recreational facilities in the communities where the money comes out from?
The problem is I don't like pokies, so I've got an issue there.
Well, would you get rid of them full stop?
I'd love to.
Could you do that?
If I can, I would. I really would if I could. But unfortunately, that's just my opinion that I don't like them, and got to deal with everyone in the city who may like them. So that's an argument that can be held another time. But yes, I want to see a lot more playgrounds. I want to see sports recreational facilities. I'd love to astroturf as many grounds as we could so we can get more use out of them. I want basketball courts, skateboard parks. I really want much more of that, because the well-being that that creates, the offshoot of that, is fantastic, and we have to do it. That's a core service of council.
Ka pai. Wayne, do you think there should be a limit on vaping outlets next to schools, and would you look at a bylaw?
Can I just go back to the pokies a little bit before I get into vaping? The pub pokies do support sports. I mean, a lot of sports would be in trouble with them. The real problem, gamblers, where they go over the top, that all takes place at Sky City. They have very, very different setups there. They produce way less as a percentage that goes to the community, and the jackpots are huge. People do really dumb stuff for very large amounts. In the pub, it's only 1,000, so nobody loses their house for that. Not that I'm suggesting that's a great thing.
Don't they though? I'm pretty sure that people sit on a pokie machine out in a tavern in South Auckland and can lose their home on it. And are you saying that it's a responsibility of the person putting the money in the machine?
No. I'm just saying that when you climb into that lot there, have a look at what goes on at Sky City. That's
so
what
what's
I'm
your
saying.
suggestion? What would you like to do there? Sinking lid, a more aggressive policy there?
Well, I think sinking lid's, I think the sinking lid's fine. I don't have any problem with that at all. And I think if you wanted to have a sinking lid on something or other, it'd be more like the liquor outlets actually, which I know Taha who have far more trouble than that. It gets quite tricky because people have property investment in these things, but there is an awful lot of
harm versus investment, I guess.
Yeah. Well, you're getting involved in the same with the vape thing. If you're going to stop something, that's a central government thing. If they're going to make it legal, it'll show up. And sometimes some of the things that are legal aren't nearly as bad as the things that are illegal. And we missed a golden opportunity last year for dealing with marijuana. I think a little bit of leadership from the Prime Minister, and that might have got over the line. So what's happened then is pee is still out there, and there is nothing worse in our society than pee.
Tēnā koe. Next, we discuss environmental issues facing Tāmaki. Auraki mai anō, time to discuss take taiao with our mayoral candidates, and we begin with an issue affecting Tāmaki's marine environment. Ports of Auckland plans to dump up to 2 million cubic metres dredged from the harbour off the coast of Aotea Great Barrier. Our next question is from that community.
Kia ora, ko Ngāti Rehua Te Hapu, ko Kelly Kling toku ingoa. I'm one of the founding members of Protect Aotea. We formed in response to a permit granted to dump 200,000 cubic metres of dredged waste 12 miles off the coast of Great Barrier Island. My question to the candidates is, what does a treaty partnership look like moving forward? How do you propose Council move away from the redundant consultation practice and move towards a better treaty partnership framework of collaboration with mana whenua at the decision-making table, particularly concerning environmental decisions which impact the Māori within their rohi?
And that question to you, Wayne.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to support the Taki what they did with opposing that. Basically, if the port does not need to do that for a starter. A, it's not economic port in the first place, and there are two other ports that don't require dredging out there, and the dredging in the channel where the snapper are found is just dumb, and dumping it out further is even dumber. Now, I've no trouble at all working with tangata whenua, particular with regard to the environment in our lovely Waitemata and the Hauraki Gulf. And in fact, I'm a trustee of Sea Cleaners, and we pick up this was last month, we picked up 280,000 litres of rubbish which people are putting into our streams and creeks. And that's a jolly good thing, and I'd like to join up with the mana whenua groups to support that.
Kia ora, Wayne. Craig, you've said in the past that you think that we need to calm down on climate change. Can you talk us through that? Do you believe in it? That it's
I'm
real?
not a denier. We are affecting the climate because humans, we're terrible. And I remember marching in 2019 with Protect Aotea up Queen Street. I was part of that and I was proud to be it. And I've stayed in touch and followed on with what's going on because it's atrocious, that idea.
So what do we do with climate change then?
We've just got to slow down a bit and stop panicking and running around yelling out the sky's falling. That's my point. Because we are only 0.17% of the world's emissions, which is a tiny, tiny little speck. And all this rhetoric that's coming out saying we'll change to this buses, we'll change to the trains, we'll change to cycles, the amount it changes, actual climate change, is so minuscule that it's not achieving anything. So I'm all for mitigation while we just slowly, progressively work on our emissions and parts like that. We've got to drain our rivers and clean our culverts and clean our drains. And I know it's not a glamorous answer, but that's what we have to do.
No, it's your answer. Viv, earlier in the campaign you said you're unsure about how to rectify the effects of climate change. You've had time now to come up with a plan. What is it?
Oh, I don't remember saying that, but anyway, I do want to just comment on that question. I think there is a tremendous amount that we can learn through collaboration with mana whenua, and I have to say from my own experience and my own whānau.
But not co-governance, just collaboration?
No, because what really
Mm-hmm.
worries me that we haven't got the consultation right across lots of different community groups, and I feel really strongly about this because I've talked to so many groups that feel disconnected. And I think it's really important we find a way through this. And at the moment, what's being put up is alienating some people. I would rather that we had a good look at the various channels and find something that works, because it is absolutely vital that we collaborate. There is so much in terms of climate change and the environment that we can learn. And I know that from my own whānau. But I don't think we've got the model right. I really don't.
Efesol, you're a fan of free public transport. It starts off at 130 million and it could be as much as 500 million by 2030. So how are you going to pay for it?
We're going to pay for it because we've got enough money and current resources where we can reprioritise 700 million in technology and customer experience. And I'd say to you that the best customer experience is getting on the bus for free. It also puts back $27 back into people's pockets. And what we also know is it's going to bring down our carbon emissions because people are getting out of their cars and they're getting on the bus. And it's good for those persons who are in that lower quintile of the income range, because we know from the Helen Clark Foundation that many of them are Māori and Pacific, and that lower quintile is spending 30% of their disposable income on transport. We alleviate that for these families by taking that transport cost away from them.
Okay, we've got to the part where we're going to have a hui quiz. And so these first couple of questions, first in, first served, how many tupuna maunga in Auckland? Anyone?
14.
Can you name three of them? Tupuna maunga, can you name three?
Waiwaka.
Mangere.
Mount Hobson.
Tangakiki.
Butterfly Creek or Rainbow's End?
Butterfly Creek.
Ka pai. Have you ever volunteered in a food bank?
Yes.
How about you, Wayne? You volunteered in a food bank?
No, I haven't.
Would you support moving the port of Auckland? Would you support moving the port?
Eventually it has to move.
Eventually, yes, it does have to move.
And obviously. Where would you shift it to?
Oh, I'm not getting involved in the discussion of where it goes. No, I'm not an expert on where it should go.
No, but you must have an idea.
No, seriously.
People need to know.
No, I do need to say, the immediate priority is to make sure that it is safe for workers and it is returning a fair return, and is not right now. What I've said is that over a period of time, and I've said 10 years, the decision needs to be made. I'm not putting myself up as the expert, but I then want to work with the people of Tāmaki Makaurau to work out what goes on that land.
Ka pai. Wayne, should we drop the Auckland regional fuel tax?
It's not up to us anyhow, actually.
Would you support it though?
Nothing's free. Somebody else pays for everything. So you take it away here, it comes back there. So if right at the moment the government have dropped that, just what's taxes rise to pay it.
Okay. Have you used public transport in the last 6 months?
Yes.
Have you?
Yes.
Have you?
Yes.
Have you?
Absolutely. I've got my little card to show it.
Where did you go?
Hey, well, I live in K Road and I catch the
Went around.
The loop quite regularly. I step outside and it's cheaper to do that than park the car.
Do you support free public transport?
No, nothing's free, but
Okay.
I do support much faster transport.
Otara markets or Avondale?
Otara.
Yes, good, Viv.
Piha or Mission Bay?
Oh,
mate,
can I
Piha.
say Bastion Point instead of Mission Bay? Overlooking,
You
please?
certainly can.
Thank you, I'll choose that one.
Yeah, the
Well, mate, te
left-hand break of
paki.
Piha.
Whakaparako. I think you're leaning into some people here. The largest Māori cultural festival is taking place in Tāmaki, Makaurau next year. Can anyone name it?
Te Matatini.
I guess, just in really quickly, Wayne, why should people vote for you?
I think I'm pretty well connected. I've got a good track record of fixing things, both hauora and large businesses in power. And I play in a band called Hangi Stones.
Hangi Stones. And Viv, really quickly?
I'm a constructive leader who gets things done. I want our city to be safe, easy to get around. I want to see people housed, and I want it to be united and livable and resilient.
Ka pai, e wheso.
I'm going to lead a climate action council, make sure the administration is focused on our children and future generations.
Ka pai. And Craig?
Well, I'm all about common sense. I want to turn Auckland Council into a proper service provider, and I want to be the mayor for everyone.
Tēnā koutou, thank you so much. Ka nui te mihi ki aku manuhuri tuarangi. Good luck to all our candidates. Ko e wareware, voting opens on the 16th of September and closes at 12 noon on the 8th of October. So make sure you're enrolled to vote and have your say. Ko hikina te hui e hoa ma, nohoro mai rā.
Kia piri, kia tata mai. Kia piri, tata mai. E ngai wiri, ki rungai te whenua, ora kei e. Ka ria ake rā, nā wai, te poiri. Maku e ki atu, ora kei tūpuna, ora kei whakapapa, ora kei tangata, kia ora la, ora kei tūpuna, ora kei whakapapa, ora kei tangata, kia ora la, hira tōrwha, hira wehi.
Ko te reo, te taka.